We head into this confirmation vote, potentially the beginning of the confirmation vote to get Tulsi Gabbard out of committee tomorrow. But we also have, of course, RFK, Will, and you also have Kash Patel, and those should be also getting scheduled very soon.
That's right. And what we're seeing actually out of reports about the Intelligence Committee is that they will be holding a vote tomorrow in closed session. So the concern here is what we talked about last week, is that in a closed session vote, they may not report who voted how, and then you just get the raw number. You get how many voted for and against, and it could give some cover for some of the potentially flaky Republicans on the panel to not vote to advance her nomination in a positive way.
Yeah, so keeping their allegiance secret. Now, hopefully, she makes it through. No problems. You know what? We move on from that fight. Do I think it's ridiculous? Absolutely. It just shows there's a bit of cowardness running on with people deciding, because it also shows they're voting against probably what their constituents want them to vote for.
That's right.
That's what it's showing. It's showing that when you're up for re-election, that this is going to be a talking point, that you did not vote to confirm Tulsi Gabbard, and that your own people may be upset with you. Well, then maybe you should be looking at who you're representing.
And when you look at some of the members, even Senator Lindsey Graham, who's not on the Intelligence Committee panel, but he is a very strong national security voice within the United States Senate. So I think that his words carry a lot of weight for those other members, as well as his tenure in the Senate. He has strong relationships with some of the others that have been there a long time, that he has that seniority, that kind of statesman feeling within the Senate body itself, that he can be persuasive in conversations with some of these other senators. But I think one of the criticisms that sometimes falls on someone like Senator Graham is that he is almost always a yes vote on whoever the president is for their nominees, because he sees the advice and consent role of the Senate very much like what J.D. Vance was saying, and what even Senator Cornyn was saying, is that unless there is some egregious, real reason that surpasses just some policy differences, that you should vote yes to confirm a president's
qualification and agreement on all issues is not the same thing.
Exactly.
He often votes for the more liberal Supreme Court justices to be confirmed if their pedigree shows that they are qualified for the job. If you're looking at someone's politics, that kind of goes against what they should be doing. Now, I understand we're living in a very different time in 2025 here, where you do need to ask some important questions. We do need to make sure there are some checks and balances here. But that is the situation in terms of Lindsey Graham. And I think that's a big move. When you had last week some moves happen, and now you have Lindsey Graham, and he also tweeted, or not tweeted, they put that in the chat, posted on X. Posted on X. People get it right.
Will in the production team. He tends to be on my side of being historically inaccurate at this point. It is X.
And this is what the post was on X about Tulsi Gabbard from Lindsey Graham yesterday. A lot of criticism against Tulsi Gabbard has been mean and off base. She demonstrated that she understands the importance of tools we need to protect our national security. I will be voting, then all caps, yes, on Tulsi Gabbard. And a lot of people are asking about that secret vote, because that's not being reported very much. In these conversations, that isn't one of those top things we're seeing. But now that's looking like that could be the way.
That's right. So the report is that it will be a closed session on Tuesday. So this won't be an open hearing or open meeting where then press is involved. So, they could still report the tally based on the senator, but the fact that they are doing a closed session means that they, probably want to have open discussion amongst the senators about why they're voting, and also it could give cover for some senators that are concerned about how their constituents would maybe feel about how they're voting. I feel like the momentum is in a good spot, but that does not mean that we can let up the pressure right now.
No, and
we have to tell our senators that they should confirm Tulsi Gabbard. They should move this favorably out of committee, because there are ways that it could be moved out unfavorably to still get a vote from the full Senate, because that's really who confirms it. But what this reminds me of a little bit is a famous instance of then Senator Joe Biden with Robert Bork, who was nominated to the Supreme Court. And what did the chairman of the Judiciary Committee do then? They voted him out unfavorably and really sabotaged a very well-qualified originalist judge to go on the Supreme Court, voted him out of committee with an unfavorable recommendation. The full Senate voted, and he lost that confirmation. Many times it doesn't go that far that you lose the confirmation. You pull the nominee. However, it went that far that the name Bork has become memorialized even in the dictionary as sabotaging someone, of ruining their progression.
That was from the Swedish Chef, from the Muppets. Bork, bork, bork.
Right.
I thought that was more
maybe they took some liberties there.
Always a mess.
But that is become a part of Joe Biden's legacy. How unfairly he treated a very well-qualified nominee. And who did we end up with on the court? Justice Kennedy, who was very moderate and the swing vote for generations. So when the left or someone who is not in favor of sometimes the conservative president's pick for something, sometimes you end up with something that is not really what you want as a compromise.
Hey, Senator Graham also was questioned about his support or lack thereof of RFK Jr., obviously someone who has been another controversial pick, another former Democrat who shifted, just like Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat who found that her party had left her. We saw that with RFK Jr. Here's actually the questioning. I think a lot of you who are not very supportive of Lindsey Graham, who are not sure, what he was mainly curious about was Kennedy's thoughts on life, thoughts on abortion, because he had been notoriously very pro-choice in his life. And Senator Graham wasn't sure if he was comfortable with that. So let's take a listen to that bite. That is bite 2.
I am now okay supporting RFK Jr. because I think during the course of the hearing, he's committed to a Republican pro-life agenda, President Trump's pro-life agenda, Mexico City policy, dealing with chemical abortions. So I will take him at his word. I'm comfortable with what he said on the pro-life issue. He has been radically pro-choice as a person, but I do believe that as secretary, he will implement a pro-life agenda that will be pushed by President Trump. So I will be a yes.
Okay.
But I'll also watch every move he makes.
Somewhat, isn't that what we want?
Right.
Someone who's saying, I'm going to make sure I'm going to watch every move he makes, because historically he has been someone who is very pro-choice, has moved his way, certainly has moderated over time. Even over the last year, we've seen him be able to almost apologize for some of the stances he's made before. But someone's going to watch RFK say, look, I'll support him, but I'm watching him like a hawk because there's some things I disagree with, and his stance on life has been one of them. And we have seen RFK, as well as Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel, all say, hey, we are serving to serve the president's agenda here. So this isn't about us. This is about serving the American people, and as well as implementing what the Trump administration wants. And if they want a pro-life agenda, we will see if RFK is able to accomplish that.
Well, and I think when you also take that statement, what is the purpose of the Congress in a checks and balances system? It is to conduct oversight of the executive branch. And so that is absolutely the job of members of Congress and the Senate, is to watch very closely what the executive branch does and provide that oversight. They have the power of the purse. They're the ones that allocate the funding to the executive branch. And that is one way they can also very directly help control the agenda of the executive branch, is what they allocate funding for. And I think that's a big point that Senator Graham was making.